CXLA is always fun. It's a UCI event, and there's some big names on the domestic and even international cross scene here. Right off the bat, I knew this was going to be a good time because our wave was combined A and B together. For perspective, that's like a JV team playing with an NCAA Cat 1. Well, maybe not that extreme, but pretty close. We speed off the road section and it's a fast start onto the grass. I hit the grass in third place behind Scott Lundy, who is a former Canadian Masters champion, and this really great rider in the 4.0 kit from Portland Bicycle Studio, who's actually riding a single speed. They are definitely pulling away from me, and I try to stay in touching distance by hitting clean lines and hammering. This venue was new for me. It's at the Whittier Narrows Park in South El Monte, and it's a really nice course. There's a lake, there's trees, there's grass, and the weather was really good for cyclocross. Unfortunately, I wasn't really able to pay any attention to that because I was hurting pretty bad. Right by the lake, I start getting past. The ground here is pretty bumpy and firm. There's lots of roots and holes. You kind of have to look out for them. The other thing about this course was there's also lots of corners. The corners on this course were generally taped pretty wide. You could really hold your speed. There wasn't a lot of braking you had to do through a lot of these corners, and you could really pedal through some of them. Okay, what we're about to hit here is the sand pit. Again, getting past some more. And the sand pit had developed a nice little rut through it that if you stayed in that rut, you could maintain your speed. I tried to do that and just come out the other end clean. So at this point, I'm sitting in the middle of the pack with those really fast guys up front and these really fast kids from the A race. And I'm pretty much tail gunning this little group. My strategy was to try and maintain speed through some of the flatter sections and the road sections, and then really try to hammer it on these little uphills. You can see later that this did not work out well for me. The other thing I noticed about this course were around some of these trees, there were a lot of exposed roots. You could go over them or around them. Kind of reminded me of Austin. Critical root zone, anyone? Anyway, we're approaching these steps with a lot of speed. You really have to kind of get the timing right, and I'm starting to see stars here. A remount, and it's time for the flyover. The flyover is a really unique feature. It's kind of fun. I wasn't really able to get any air off of it, but you can really get some speed going down the other side through these corners. Again, I keep losing contact through these corners because I'm pretty tired. I try to get back on just by maintaining good lines and accelerating right after the corner. And for the time being, it is working. You can see through that corner that you don't need a lot of braking. You can just maintain your speed. We're just about to hit the barrier section and I'm really starting to see red. One of the hard things about cross is that it's technique based, but it's hard to have good technique if you're really, really tired. Right here, I hit a hole and my hand flies off the hood and I pretty much almost go down. Almost. That would have been really bad. The next section we have here is a really twisty section, kind of like a little slalom around trees. I never really saw anyone get off the main line. You probably could, but it might lose you time. And I was kind of grateful that I could kind of coast through here and just try to get a little bit of recovery. This course really made me think about cornering technique and cornering lines. There are so many corners on a cyclocross course. If you could save a few seconds on each corner over the course of an entire race, that can add up to a lot of time. But again, you got to do these techniques and do these lines while at the same time having your heart beating out of your chest. So that's the challenge in cyclocross. All right, we're approaching the next section that's man-made, and it's a a series of small little wooden steps. During practice, I was able to ride these things, but I kept hitting my tires and wheels on some of the edges of the steps, and I didn't want to risk a puncture or a broken rim, so it was a dismount, run over the steps, and remount for me. Alright, another flat section, and here I'm thinking to myself, okay, just maintain your speed, maintain your momentum. What I should have been thinking was, dang, I think I started too hard. It's a 45-minute race, and I'm pretty much only 5 minutes into it. I actually haven't really passed anyone, and everyone that I've seen has been passing me, just like Adam passes me right before this sand section. Right through this sand section, I tried to stay on the road as much as possible to keep my speed and stayed high. It's a little bit of an off-camber slope towards the right. We hit this corner, and again, nice tape wide. You can really go outside, apex outside for many of these corners. With the grip on the tires, it was really nice to be able to do that. Through this road section, I try to recover and build up some speed as we enter another part by the lake. I really like this section because it was a little bit downhill. There's lots of roots and bumps that you could really pump up and over, try to unweight the bike and try to gain some speed through them. You can maintain your momentum. But again, I was pretty tired. Another rider passes me as Aubrey goes by, and this another rider passes me as well. So a lot of passing. One of the things that's really evident after you've been racing this course for a while is that you can start seeing a line, a groove that's getting eaten away at the dirt and in the grass. It's almost kind of like a little flattened down section that you can really see where everyone else raced before you. So this is kind of good and bad. One of the things that I noticed was when I was riding in that line, there was a little bit less rolling resistance because the grass was trampled down. But sometimes that line that everyone else has been riding, the sheep line, isn't always the fastest. Sometimes it is, but sometimes you really have to keep your head up and look for the faster lines that might be out there. Some more undulation here. We go down this little bank and up and around. Through this section, there's really not much to say. I was like in my own personal hurt locker. I was also kind of in no man's land. So the guys who are racing the A group, they're all in front of me. The guys that are racing in the B group, they're all behind me. It's kind of hard to maintain your speed and your dedication when you're by yourself. Well, at least I did get to pass one guy. Kind of bad luck to get your bike caught up in the course taping and marking. When I reflect back and look on this race, I could see that I started way too hard. Looking at my lap times, from lap 1 to lap 2, I lost almost 30 seconds. It's almost like half a minute in just one lap. So kids, here's the lesson. Starting fast and trying to hold on is a really, really good thing to do. It's training, it pushes you, and if you keep doing it, you might find yourself staying with the lead group a little longer each time. But you can also blow up and get popped. So choose wisely. Until next time, this is the CrossDoc, and I hope to see you out at the races.